The incompetent way to duck in Spring Mayhem's Battlefield Brawl. Now in this video I'm going to assume you're after Solduck here, which is a lovely piece of decor with a duck in a rain cape and a hat, and it gives you a 5% reputation, and it also gives you bragging rights saying I've got to the top league in Spring Mayhem 2020. Oh yes. Besides, what else are you going to do? Raven's return event isn't going to happen until after Spring Mayhem is finished. The devs have said that on Twitter and Facebook. How do you get Solduck decor then? Well, you get Solduck decor as a reward for getting to the Diamond League. And how do you get into the Diamond League? Well, you got to score points, and your points total qualifies you for the next league. So I'm in Bronze, and when I hit the total of 800 points, I'll qualify as a Silver League player in Spring Mayhem, and I'll be rewarded by headlights, halogen headlamp left. Nice. How do you score the points? Well, you score the points in the brawls. But, and there's a big but, and I'm not talking about the tanks but, every brawl you go into, it costs you points to enter. I'm in Bronze League at the moment, and it's costing me 6 points to get in. So if I go into the brawl and then score no points, I'll actually get -6 points on my total. My total could go down and down and down and down, but it can't go down to the next league. I'm in, when I get to Silver League, of the 8, which I need 800 points for, if I score negative points for one brawl or several brawls in a row, my total will go down to 800 points. That is the number of the total points that you require to get into your league. You can't drop lower than that. So you can't drop leagues, which is good, because in previous Spring and Autumn Mayhems, you could do that. So you ended up going up, and then you went down a bit, up a bit, down, up, and oh, it's painful. But now there's only one way to go. You can only go up the leagues. Hooray! The other thing about the cost to enter the brawls is the cost goes up. I'm in Bronze at the moment. It requires 6 rating points for me to go into the brawl. When you get to Diamond League, it costs you 12 points. So your progression gets slower and slower and slower. But it could have been worse. In fact, it was worse until the dev said, actually, those point costs are a bit high, and they've dropped them a bit. So it's only cost you 12 per brawl in the Diamond League now. What scores you points whilst you're in the brawl then? Well, first off, there's kills. Every time you kill an enemy, you get a point, or more points, depending on how many bases your team owns when you get the kill. The more bases you've got, the more points. So I got 20 points for kills on this battle, but that doesn't necessarily mean I got 20 kills. I could have got all my kills when we had 2 bases, so I only need 10 kills. Then you get a point for every kill assist. So I managed 4 kill assists then, and then you get points for base capture. Every time your team gets a kill, you get a point for every base the team owns that you helped capture. Which means that capturing the bases is as important as getting kills if you're after scoring points in order to get up the leagues and get the decor and the paints. And random teams being what they are, most of the players on your team are going to be concentrating on getting kills. They're not going to bother with the bases. So I make it, and you should make it a priority to capture bases and make sure they stay captured. And incidentally, that also helps you win the battles, the brawls, if you're after wins. If you look at the score, now that's the sort of regular reward score that governs how much reputation and how much scrap reward you get out of the battle. You notice I only came second for, kills and damage and capturing and all the rest of it, the normal scoring, but I did come top for my rating scores, the scores that help me go up, that contribute towards the my total that gets me up the leagues. So I got 44 rating points, minus the 6 that cost to enter because I'm in Bronze League. I earned 38 points for this battle. When the brawl starts, and each time you respawn, you get to choose which build you drive around in. At the start, you'll want to be quick and pick the one you want, because only 3 of each type of build is allowed on the team at any one time. Which one should you be driving around in order to maximize your mayhem score? Well, the one you don't want to be in is the sniper. That's 4 armored tracks and a typhoon. It's horrible. It is so slow that you won't be capturing many bases, and that's where a lot of your points are going to come from. So don't take the sniper. Also, when he gets into combat with engages other vehicles, its turning circle is so huge, the other vehicles just drive around you. Great, it's got a typhoon, but you don't get to shoot them that much. So avoid the sniper. The next least desirable build, in my opinion, is the Tankman. Armored tracks and an elephant turret. Still only got the one gun, you're doing less damage than the Typhoon, you're still just as slow, so you won't be capturing bases much. But when it comes to fighting, your manoeuvrability is there, you can turn around, and you can turn around on the side. So it's not as bad as a sniper, but still not very good. Wouldn't recommend it. In the middle is the Cannoneer, which is wheels and 2 mandrakes. So it's faster than all the tracks ones, not quite as fast as the other 2. And when it comes to being engaged, everyone else gets direct fire and you've got to arc up into the sky and down again. So if you get engaged by other enemy builds, you're not going to do very well. You're more likely to hit yourself as hit them once they're close. But since a lot of the time people are trying to capture bases and the bases aren't very big, you can just rain artillery fire down into the bases and get hits and heat people up and do plenty of damage and get kills. So there is some scope for use of the Cannoneer. But the 2 I'd recommend you use would be the Scout and the Mortarman. The Scout, because it's the flat out fastest build, and that gets you into the base and capturing it and running off if there's too many enemies there. Plus, it's nice and maneuverable, and the autocannons it's armed with are the easiest ones to shoot and hit people with. So if you're a beginner player, I'd go for the Scout. But my favouriteest of all builds for Spring Mayhem is the Mortarman. It's got a lot of durability. It's got an ice box cabin. It's way more durability than the Scout. It goes almost as fast for capturing those bases, and those crickets can deal out a lot of damage, an awful lot of damage. For doing damage, I'd say the Mortarman is the best of the bunch, and it's almost as good as the Scout for capturing bases. So my first choice is the Mortarman. These images are from 2 different brawls right at the start of the battle before I'd done anything. Can you spot the differences? Yes, that's right, the one on the left has more durability and the one on the right has 1 more ammo count. That's because the one on the left I had Master Jack in and he has plus 3% vehicle durability, and the one on the right I had Stone Death, plus 1 ammo count. So you can see that the co-pilot's perks do apply in Spring Mayhem. So once you've chosen which build you want to spend your time in, choose the appropriate co-pilot. That's the pre-brawl choices dealt with. Now what about tactics in the brawl itself? Well, for tactics you need a map, and here's ours. We've got A, B and C, which are the 3 bases that you can capture, and then you spawn in 1 and then the enemy will spawn over in 2, or possibly vice versa. If you spawn in 1, you should go straight to B and capture that base, because you want to prioritize capturing and holding bases. And once you've got B, you run off to C and capture that. And then once you've got C, you obviously go to 3 bases, because if you've got 3 bases, every time you kill an enemy, you get 3 points. And every time the enemy, your team kill an enemy, you'll get 3 points. So obviously A is the way to go, isn't it? Wrong. To coin the phrase, A is a base too far. You're splitting your forces over 3 bases and you're trying to hold on to them. Meanwhile, the team just masses up in one lump and goes and gets A. Yeah, they're going to win, aren't they? And fighting in A is bad for you. Look at the distance between your spawn 1 and A, and then the enemy's spawn 2 and A. That's right, every time you kill an enemy in A, they spawn real close by, they're back in the fight almost instantly. Whereas you die, you respawn in 1, and it takes you ages to get over A and get back in the fight. Which means the enemy's usually outnumbering you, which means they're going to kill more of you than you of them, and you're not going to take A. And worse, while that's going on, some speedy scout from the enemy is going, wee, I'm off to C and I capture that, and I'm off to B, so I'm capturing that. So now we're killing more, the enemy's killing more of us, and they're getting more points for it. So yes, A is a base too far. Do not go to A. All you want to do is capture B, capture C, keep hold of those, kill the enemy. That's the ideal. Obviously, you've got to change your tactics according to what everyone else is doing. If everyone in your team captures B and then says, oh, we're off to A now, and goes en masse, if you stick around in B or go off to C, you're on your own, you're not going to do very well if you just have to meet 2 enemy and you're stuffed. So in that case, you don't, oh, I don't want to go to A, but everyone else is going to A, so off I go to A. So you have to be a bit flexible, but the ideal is capture B, capture C, keep hold of them, kill the enemy. It's that simple. Because players are dying and then coming back into the battle in the same small area on the map for the enemy on 2, it is possible to get the game into a state where you and a bunch of allies hang around 2, wait for an enemy to be killed by the rest of your team. The enemy spawns in, there's a bunch of you shooting at one guy, boom, he's dead. And then the next spawn, and you outnumber him and kill him really easy. And there's a respawn from the one you just killed, and you kill him really easily. But that state of affairs is quite rare. It's hard to get to, partly because there's a bunch of you out of the way on the map, and the rest of the enemy team is busy butchering the rest of your team and capturing all the bases, so getting more points, and then they come back and get you. And you will get worn down eventually, even just spawn camping like that. And when you do, you got to go all the way back at 1, and you getting back to 2 is a bit difficult. And in order to do it, you need concerted action from 1 or 2 at least of your allies. So in a random brawl, that's not going to happen very much. And even if you could make it happen regularly, reliably, you wouldn't want to, because you'd soon get yourself a name as a spawn camper. And wherever 2 Crossout players met, your name would be reviled. Just like that toxic spawn camping YouTuber. I think you know who I mean. And ask yourself this: if Battlefield Brawl is so easy and so fun and you're such an awesome player, why is it you need a couple of minions to group up with you, come into the Brawl and support you and make you look good? I'll leave you with that thought. That's it for this video. I'm off to get myself a Solduck.